Oh, there she is. That's perfect timing. Welcome to the second session of our speaking track, our second week. I just texted you, Sweetness. I'm so happy to see you. Okay, I'm just going to check back, return a report. I'm just going to check back on the speaking plan. I got artists. How is everyone feeling about the speaking plan? Did you complete it? First and foremost, don't stress it if you didn't. Don't stress, but were you able to complete it? Wendy, we know you've been sick. Got it? Okay, don't stress it, Wendy. Do not stress it. All you've been doing is like simmering. So all those ideas are coming together and the angels are helping you work on it. So don't stress it. So by now, what I would encourage you to do is to complete that speaking plan if you can. And the second thing is, first of all, does anyone have any questions on it? Artists.
I just want to say there's a video there that you did for other ladies, I think earlier in the year, that was really helpful for me to watch that and go through it because it answered the questions. So
that was part of your homework, was to watch that module. So thank you for watching it. That was why we didn't go through it super in depth, because the module already did that. So I'm glad to hear that that helped, that actually worked. Yay. That's important. On the speaking plan, now you should have some idea of your specific audience avatar, and then the things that they need to know, the pain points or ideal life, and then the topics that you're starting to get ideas of, okay, this is the thing that I want to speak about. Amanda gave a great suggestion on the app of brainstorming and then go back and circle. This is super huge. And making sure that your audience is niche enough. So I was just talking with a gal that I'm coaching with on Monday, and she was like, yeah, I was saying, well, I don't know if I should do this or do this. And she's like, no, this is pretty obvious. Like, do this segment. And I was like, yeah, but I'm kind of scared. You're making all these excuses. You guys, it was great because I was on the other side, and you will be so happy. I was so uncomfortable. And I started getting a little snarky. I started getting a little snippy with her. And I'm like, why am I getting snippy? And I realized I was getting kind of defensive and protective. Like, I really don't want to go there. And I really don't want to do that. It was really funny. So I had to apologize to her. It wasn't too bad. I was thinking more of the thoughts inside, like, stop making me do this. So I got a feel for how you guys might feel about me sometimes when I throw something heavy. But it was really good because it made me niche down and stay niched and not go off in strange roads that look really good. So be as niche as you possibly can. I was just doing deep dive with Heidi de Graffenried this morning. And again, her thing, and this is one of the things we're going to talk about today with your keynote, talking about how to make sure her audience is niched down, because she could do this to so many women of, the feminine way, but it's really a certain group of women who want that, who actually want to start transforming that way. So you want to reach the people who want and need what you have and are ready, the most ready for that. So think about who's your audience avatar, what do they want and need, and then how can they best receive it? Who is the most receptive right now? And then how can they best receive what it is that you have to offer? What is the easiest, most convenient way? If you listen to any of my posts last week, I was talking about James Clear from Atomic Habits, and he was saying for habits, you want to make sure they're easy, attractive, that they're obvious, and they're satisfying. And that's the same thing with what you want to offer these women. How can you make it easy? How can you make it attractive? How can you make it obvious? How can you make it satisfying? Unless you think that making something attractive is like salesy. I was just reading in Tad Callister's book, which I will be sharing stuff from over the next few weeks. But if anybody has this, it's Teaching with Power. It's great, so great, him and his wife. But he was talking there about spiritual trailers. And as mission presidents, they were talking with their missionaries about how to get people interested in the Book of Mormon. He said what missionaries do, and I did this, many people did, they would take the Book of Mormon, give it to someone and say, here's a bookmark on 3rd Nephi 11, read it, and then we'll meet and discuss it, right? Blech! That's like saying, have some Brussels sprouts. They're good. Anyway, he said they taught their missionaries to do spiritual trailers and introduce in 3rd Nephi. What happens? There's been a big earthquake. There's terrible things that are happening. The people are dying. They can hear people moaning. They don't know what's going on. It's black as night. And then all of a sudden, someone starts coming down from the sky, white as day. Like, what? And the guy's like, well, who is it? And he's like, read 3rd Nephi 11 and you'll find out. Boom! Who wants to know, right? So think about your keynote and this speech that you're going to do, this presentation, first of all, think about how you can present this to them in that attractive way, in the way that helps them to understand you really do need this, because you know your audience needs it, but sometimes they don't know they need it, or they don't value it, or they don't realize I need to put some time and effort into this. I actually need to work on this. You get to show them that very thing. So easy, attractive, obvious, and satisfying. Think about some of those things. Another thing to consider is, now that you're thinking, you've got your speaking plan, you know who it is, you know where they go, what they want, how they want it convenient, all of those things. Now start thinking about that keynote and those 3 key points, and make sure that you have chosen, these are the 3 vital things. If I die tomorrow, these are the 3 things that I want them to know about this topic. So somebody give me a topic that you're thinking your keynote should be, not the title because you're going to snazz it up, but what is the keynote topic that you're thinking you should do? Anybody got one handy that they want to share?
I got one handy. Mine is, let's see, instructional match would be my topic.
Instructional match. So tell me about that. If I was listening and I'm an educator, I know what that is, but tell me what that is.
Yeah, so my thought is I would start with the story about the big blizzard that hit, I can't remember, I'd have to go back and look where it was at, but it hit this town, a big blizzard did, way early on in the year. And a group of deer became trapped in this little valley. And the town people were like, this group of deer will never survive. They will all die off. So they held a meeting and they all came up with the idea that they would each take turns taking these deer alfalfa, and they would feed them until spring came. So imagine their surprise when spring came and all the deer died off, and yet they had plenty to eat. And when the Division of Wildlife came in and they did all of the research on these deer to find out what happened, they found out that while their bellies were full of hay, they died of starvation, because it was not the substance that the deer needed to survive the winter.
Okay, so I'm going to interrupt you there. I love that story, and I know you've shared it with me, but I love that story, and I know that Wendy only has until 2:30, so super fast. Instructional match to me then means you are getting the right information and the right teaching tools to the right person who needs those tools. You're making a match. Is that right?
Correct. Yep.
Perfect. So I would encourage you then, think, you probably already have them, those 3 points that you're going to have in that keynote that are the key things. And one tip on that is to build on your tips. So not just 3 random ones, but start, where is the beginning of the start? So I love that story, because then that's the hook, and that's the embellishments that you're going to do, right? To get the story across in an interesting way. On the 3 points, think about building. So when I was talking with Heidi, she's doing awake, arise, and activate, and it's building this transformational experience. So what's the first step that these women need to do? They need to awaken to this. Then they need to rise, and then they need to act on it. So you wouldn't start with activate. They start with awaken. So start with awareness or a setting of understanding, making sure you're on the same page. So instructional match, you would want to make sure that they're on the same page of what does that mean. It's like the setting of a story. You need to start with the setting of the story and make sure that you're starting them at a starting point that makes sense. So if you're talking about artists, what's your topic?
My topic is finding healing in generational gardening.
Oh, I love, love, love. Okay. And I know we talked a lot about this the other day. I love, love, love. So on that topic, how can you help build the learning? So maybe it's starting with, what is generational gardening? What does that mean? And how does it benefit people, right? You're hitting them with credible awareness kind of things of like, let's all play in the same sandbox. Let's all go to the same place for this imaginary, story that I'm telling. You need to set that setting, set the setting. Then once you're on that same understanding, then it's a matter of building, giving them the tools, right? So once they have awareness and you're on the same page, you have common ground, then it's, and you're showing them the need for it. You're setting that setting and you're saying, this is why generational gardening is so effective and so important. And the setting that you're having is healing in the generational gardening. That is presupposing that these women have families that need healing, that there's broken in some way, or there's broken parts and they're looking for healing. So in that setting, you're addressing pain points and ideal life. So you're either leading with the pain point and then you're saying, guess what? I've got the ideal way to solve this. Or you're starting with the pain point and then the next thing you're going to do is talk about, well, what can we do about this, right? What can help us reach this ideal? What is it that we really want? So consider in those 3 points, if you're helping them with awareness, if you're helping address a pain point, if you're giving them an ideal life solution, and then you're giving them the tool to make that happen, just one tool. Now, you can give them a couple of tools, but don't overwhelm them. And you don't want to give them too much because then they walk away and they feel like, well, I already did the work, but they haven't. So give them something. That's why they say that like at the 3rd mark, you want to give them a freebie. And like I was doing my Facebook Live for High Five Live the other day. And so near the beginning, I'm talking about 5-finger living. And I'm like, I've got a download for that. It's ConnieStoffel.com. I'll tell you about it in a little bit, but I've got a download for that. So don't stress it. And then I go on to the next point. That's a soft sell. That's a soft entry because I'm not giving a whole big spiel on it. I'm just giving a sort of a side note to it. I'm telling them what the tool is and I'm saying, don't worry about it. I'll tell you more about it later and you can get it for free. So just put that in your holding place. And then we're going to keep talking about the things that I want to share with you. That's a nice, sweet thing to do, but make it free and don't offer something that's a cost thing or whatever. You want to give them something of value and just tell them, I'm just happy to be here and I want to make your life better. And they can start trusting that, yeah, that's where you're coming from. Then later on, if you want to do a value offer later, about 2/3 of the way through the keynote, you want to give them the value offer, something that makes sense, something that you've been talking about, and this in my chapter 2, this is where I have blah, blah, blah. So that at the 2/3 mark, you're like, if you want my book, you're welcome to go and check it out. It's on Amazon and it's great. It's got well reviewed, but you can use it to then go back to what you're teaching. You can use it to help your family be able to work through coping skills that are dealing with anxiety and depression. About the 2/3 mark is important because you don't want to end with selling them something. That is just their back is going to be up. They don't want to hear about it. If you keep going on and giving them even more at the end, they're going to feel like, okay, thank you. You're not just here to try to shove something down my throat. After that 2/3 place, oftentimes what you'll do is do the testimonials. That's where you're going to share, this is how well this works. So say you were offering your book at the 2/3 mark or at the Mother's Day brunch or something like that, or your courses. You can say, you know what, this is my life's work. I love doing this because I see the results. And that's when you start talking about the results. That's where I would talk about Wendy Jones. She started off and she came and she was like, please don't talk to me about social media. She was like practically in fetal position. And then within a few months, we were teaching her and she was able to teach social media. And within a few months, she was able to hold her first retreat, very successful. And then boom, now she's holding her 3rd retreat. These principles really do work and you can take it at the pace that you want. Just, you see what I'm saying? So you're talking about how this actually works, but you're not harping on buy my book, which is super annoying. You still want to come back to, I'm connecting with you about these principles, and whatever you do, when you walk away today, please make sure you practice one of the principles that resonated with you. That's that really important call to action. Practice one of the principles. Then people can think in their mind, oh, I'm just going to go back to my notes. Or someone can be like, I want the whole kahuna. Where's the book? I'm going to just order on Amazon. Or they like, I want to get to know her a little more. So I'm going to go up and talk to her afterwards and just get a feel for her and really kind of cement this. Does that make sense? You're giving them that call to action and they get to choose which way they want to pursue that. So at the end, it's a very good thing. If you have questions, I love talking to people. I love answering your questions. You can find me, and that's where you put up your social media slide. You can find me on all social media platforms. I have a newsletter. You're welcome to join that. It's free. And I give tips every week on how to use these things. Really, I just love to help people move forward because that's what you guys do. We're just here to help people move forward in the thing that you're doing. So if that gives you kind of an idea of those 3 tips, the 3 points that you're going to give, and then kind of the pacing of those points, that will help you give a better understanding for yourself of, ooh, okay, which point is going to come first? Does it help build on the other rather than just 3 points out there and I'm just going to throw them out there like seeds and see if they plant? Does that make sense? I invite you to watch the module, and Jerusha is going to get the link for me because Lamira just got back yesterday and we just had our first meeting this morning. But we're going to get the link for you to watch the Keystone Keynote. And I invite you this week, your job is to do the Keystone Keynote. So outline your keynote, outline those 3 points and get those 3 key talking points that you know they need to hear. And then once you've got that and what that looks like, go back and do the 5 S's. I have a little section in there. It's in your guidebook, and it's in the resources, I believe. And it's also, I talk about it in the module that you're going to watch. But this is just snazzing it up. This is creating an experience. And you're going to hear me say this ad nauseum. So I was working with Heidi today, and we were talking about her book. Now there's books, and then there's experiences. And she's been kind of going around, oh, do I do a 30-day thing? Do I do this? Do I do that? But it all still feels like a book. You do not want just a book, and you do not want just a speech. You want an experience. So start thinking on these 3 key talking points. How can I make this an experience where they feel it and they use their 5 senses and they walk away satiated, that it's satisfying, like James Clear, said. So for Heidi, as we're talking about the book, I encouraged her, there's 1,000 ways to work this, but this is just the things that I was sharing with her. Don't do a 30-day, every day is a new thought and a new topic. That's going to make women feel stressed, unless it's just a little happy thought, a little boost. But if it's like a challenge or something they're to do, they're going to peter out at day 3, maybe day 7, if they're lucky. So I said, maybe you should looking at your 3 chunky things, which is awake, arise, and activate, which would be her keynote. And then look at the 3 key principles under each of those. And then take a week and say, we're going to work on awake this week, and teach a principle or 2 during the week, and then use interactive fun things. That goes back to your keynote. Why is this important for her book? Because her book is an experience. It's a session in a book. She does these massage, meditation, therapy sessions kind of thing, and it's a session in a book. So I said, I want you to think about this becoming an experience. Someone isn't just going to rip open a book and just read a chapter and then be transformed. That's not how it works. So how can you make it a transforming experience? So I said, what about the cover? And is it going to be soft or hardback? Probably hardcover, because that's more of a gift book. That's more of a special thing. And then the type of paper you're going to use. And then maybe the way that has the fonts on it. I was showing her my Motherhood Matters book, and you can't really see it well here, but it's got foil, like a green foil here, and foil right here, and it's raised print. And then on the inside, it's got this little border thing. And then you see at the beginning of the chapters, I've got like a back watermark of a flower of the Gerber daisy that's on the front. And it's just short little things that they can just read, and kind of, it's a feel good, sit by your bedside. So I want you to think about that in relation to your keynote. I told her in her 3 points to the one thing of the chapter, in those 3 points, what can she do to add variety and experience? Add a thought-provoking question, and then journal it. And then, of course, that begged the question of she needs to have a companion book, because a pretty journal that women can have that they can write in. Wouldn't that be glorious? So a journal question for one of the points. And then on another point, a meditation. And there's a QR code right there. She'll write out the meditation, but then she'll do a video and say, do you want to join me in this meditation? And they can click on it and sit right there while they're waiting for carpool, and they can do a little 2-3 minute meditation right there. So it's an experience. So what can you do with your keynote that keeps it an experience throughout? So get your 3 talking points, and then look for your sub points in those 3 talking points. That would be, maybe you can have 1 sub point or 2 sub points, no more than 3 sub points on that talking point. So for example, if you're doing finding healing in generational gardening, one of those sub points may be how it helps release angst or whatever, anxiety. It's not, but just for fun, release anxiety. So that would be a sub point. Then what's an interactive way to do that? You can have them brainstorm. What are the things that are creating anxiety for your children or for your family? Brainstorm what those are. And brainstorm, what are the interests of your family? Well, we like to bowl, we like to this, we like to do whatever. And then maybe you could add in, when families come together in unity in a shared liked experience, studies show that anxiety is decreased by 57%, whatever. Then that's where you bring in generational gardening. Generational gardening is a hidden weapon. It's right there at your home, and you can actually get everybody involved in ways that are fun and enjoyable. And then you would show pictures of how to make it fun and enjoyable, blah, blah, blah. You see what I'm saying? So you're getting them interactive, you're getting them thinking, sharing. You could even have them turn and do the buddy buzz, where I do that often, where I have them think about something and then turn and share to the person next to them and say, oh, my family loves this. Oh, you know what? My family loves this, blah, 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 blah. And then they've had a little connection, and that's that variety, that's that experience. And then they come back, and then you have more of like maybe pictorial experiences of something that's beautiful, fun, enlivening, whatever. But does that make sense? You're thinking about each of those points and how can you add in, and the 5 S's I add in, like a stat, so it gives credibility, or a story, or a signature quote from like a celebrity or someone who's well respected and revered. So it gives you just some different things that you can throw in there for those kinds of experiential things. Any thoughts on that or any questions on that?
I feel like, when you pick a topic and then you have the 3 how-tos, you literally could choose anything. Like you could mix it up. And that's the thing where I'm like, okay, the how-tos are just whatever's in your head. They're not, I don't know. I just think
I would relate it back to your audience and how do they best receive it, right? So you could do a variety of things, but who are you really focusing on?
with. Okay.
You're focusing on these moms that are maybe 35 to 55. What kinds of engaging experiences would they appreciate? Like you did with the studio chatter, and you had them get right in there and do their own pot and do that kind of thing. Women that age love to talk. They love to eat. They love to share stories about their family. They like check boxes. They like to make lists. They like to have beautiful quotes. They like to look at beautiful things. They like to smell yummy things. They like to leave with something yummy. We were talking about Artist doing her classes, her teaching classes. And I said, I invite you to have it be where it's a class that they can come, they interact, they talk with each other, and then they make something and they take it home. So they have something that they go home with. Women love that. They would love to take something home from a class. So think about your audience avatar. What do they need and want? What is it that how do they best receive it? And what is the vehicle that you can give them that they can best receive what you're trying to give them? So I love the idea of you having them be right in the dirt, right in the mix of things. Hi, darling. Any other questions? Does this make sense? You first want to start with your scaffolding, your topic, your 3 talking points, then go back to that keynote, watch the module, and then put in your hook, the hook story, just like Amanda beautifully shared. It's a beautiful story. It's so powerful, that hook story. And then you can go into that first point. And then maybe because you've already told a story, maybe you're going to have something that they think about, they write out, they talk to the person next to them about. Then maybe the next one, you have them up and moving, or you have them move around. One of the NSA speakers, you can't use this because she actually has a copy written and her lawyer will go after you. I'm just saying, she's from Germany, just saying. Anyway, she did this beautiful thing where she had a page of labels, and then she had everyone go around and say first impressions, write down a word and stick it on the person's back of a word that came to mind when you saw them. And then she had someone take off all the labels and put it back on the sheet. And you had all of these beautiful words. I still have my sheet. It had all of these beautiful words: fun, engaging, enthusiastic, warm, blah, 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 whatever. Oh my gosh, do we all need to hear those things? So something like that actually springboarded the idea of for our retreats, where we have the sticky notes, the positive Post-it notes, because I wanted to have a way where women could do but I couldn't do it like her, but I could do something that was positive. So again, interactive, engaging, unique, different. What would be a way, but still not just to do it because it's out there. Like Artist was saying, like make it relate back to what your avatar would be happy to do and comfortable to do and enjoy doing. And I so encourage you to play with this. Think about what you would love to do, right? Maybe if people have been at meetings, Amanda, and you're going to be teaching people who are used to sitting in boring meetings for 2 and 3 hours, that you have these moments, maybe have a bell go off or a timer go off and say, oh, it's time to boogie. And you just put on a song and they're like booty boogie or whatever, right? Do something where they do some kind of caterpillar, they walk around the room and they hook on somebody else where are you from the West? Are you from the East or whatever? Do something that gets the energy going and then come back and sit back down, whatever it might be. What can help this be an engaging, memorable experience? And I gave experiences from Clint Pulver last time, if you remember. I talked about how he had different senses that he was doing, the ET model. He had the drums, and then he had people doing the actual drums. And he pulled people down from the audience. That is a great thing to do. It's tricky. It's tricky. You really need to kind of know how to handle different people in situations, but it's always good to get ahead of time. You can ask the conference person or the person in charge, hey, I would love to bring down some people from the crowd, anyone that you would recommend that would feel comfortable and that they'd be able to be articulate. It's good to kind of do your homework on that. But again, try some different things to make it an experience. Let me make sure I hit the key things that I want to do. So I'm asking you to rough that out, and then we can go over it on Wednesday when we break out into coaching things, or you can send it to me ahead of time and I can look at it ahead of time for tomorrow and I can give you suggestions and ideas. Just so you know, don't worry about it if you don't have it obviously done for tomorrow. No stress, just maybe make that your goal for next Monday. Okay, we love you. No worries. Thanks, darling. Bye. Oh, so fun to have her on. The other thing that I would love to ask you to do is I would ask you to choose a temporal speaker and a spiritual speaker for you to go and look up and watch some snippets of different talks that they have. So, you know, temporal ones, meaning like, you know, kind of not Latter-day Saint people. I have, oh, where's my list? I had my list here of, I will send you the list if I have too many sticky notes. I will send you my list of the people, darn it. I kept it right here so I wouldn't not have it. Darn it, I will find it and I'll send you the list. But great ones, Marilyn Sherman. You'll only get snippets. Big time speakers do not put their keynotes out because otherwise, why would you have them hire them and pay them $35,000? So Marilyn Sherman is good. There's also, I have a list of Christian speakers. So you have like Faith Hill and Carrie Underwood, who are really entertainers, but they've turned speakers. Dr. Oh, that Black woman that's so good. What is her name? Anyway, I'll send you a list. But you can choose those. Women in the church, I love Sherry Dew, Bonnie Cordon, Julie B. Beck. They all have different styles, but they all have a way of connecting that you recognize immediately. Just so good. Chieko Kozaki is a bomb speaker. She always had a visual aid. Do you remember the peaches one? She's like, we don't all have to, you can can your peaches two-way. You can bottle them or you can buy them in a can, right? Trying to help women to get over the food storage guilt thing. And she would have a basket, or when she talked about different shoes, she did a whole talk on Japanese shoes, and she had, what are they called? I should know, but I can't remember. But anyway, she had the shoes that she would show. She's amazing. And even her books, if you can get her book, Lighten Up, her way of writing is very keynoting. It's very show, don't tell. It's like got a visual aid, and then she pulls out the learning lessons from that, either a story or an item. And then she follows up with that and kind of weaves that through her talk. She does a great job. There's lots more, but anyway, those are just off the top of my head that I think would be great. And like I said, I'll post it in the app, some good women temporal, and I'll do some that are, I pulled up some that were professional speakers, but also ones that were Christian speakers, and then ones that are Latter-day Saint speakers, and give you ideas for those to just go follow, check them out, see which one kind of resonates a little more style. I do a little more Sherry Dewish with a little dash of Julie B. Beck, because she's so funny and authentic. Have you listened to her stuff much? She's hilarious. One of my favorite talks of hers is BYU Women's Conference. I think it's 2011. I don't know, there's 2 years in a row. They're great. One is at the Lioness at the Gate, and the other one is all about, it's motherhood and stuff, but it's not the talk for conference mothers who know, but it's got stuff in there like that. But she talks about, she had just been babysitting her 5 grandkids. And she's like, I crawled into bed and said to my husband, I think I'm gonna die. She said, I hopped them up on cereal for 5 days and then sent them home to their mom. It was the sweetest, most authentic. And this is women's conference where, you know, they're always in their pearls, right? Way back. So anyway, it's great to see these different styles so that you can get a feel for your style and how to be more authentic and be able to get across stuff, and especially adding in that spiritual. So those were the 2 things I really wanted to make sure and add in. And then the last thing is, as you go through kind of fleshing out your keynote, I encourage you, Don't write out the whole thing. Just do your talking points and then bullet point this story, this stat, this conference quote. And if you need to, you could write a little paragraph of what's the main message of that point. Whenever I'm submitting my Studio 5 talking points, I always hit it main message and then the 3 talking points so that they know exactly what I'm covering. So you could do a main message under each one of those 3 points so that you don't get off topic, so that you know that you're always coming back to that point and you're fulfilling it. So you could do that, but don't write out the whole thing because it might change. You might change up the pieces. So don't worry about writing the whole thing. And then a couple of questions to ask yourself is, how am I engaging my audience? And where is it leading them? A really good keynote, what makes it satisfying is that it, like I said, it builds. It's almost to this denouement where you get awareness and then you see the need for it. And then you see that someone's teaching you how to do that. And then you see examples of how other people have made that happen. And at the end, you're like, I want a bag of that, right? I want that. So that's kind of how you want to build up to that and give them that satisfying experience so that they're like, I love that. It was so good, so yummy. So hopefully that makes sense. So far, what I've said, does that make sense? Okay, now I would love questions, thoughts. Let's get to the nitty gritty of your keynote.
I have a couple of questions just really quick, Connie, on the keynote site, your SITE. I understand we start with the hook. We're making sure we're connecting with their pain points. We're teaching the 3 how-tos or the solutions. And then you've got the 3 E's. And we talked about the exit capture, offer the download 2/3. So does that mean somewhere you split it in between how-to number 2 point and 3 point, or just you're casually putting it in there somewhere, or you for sure put it at the end?
No, that's just to say, make sure you've covered those points. Make sure that those points are in your keynote.
Okay.
Because you still want to do the exit capture like at 2/3 through.
Right. Make sure it's in there somewhere also with the evidence to the solution and testimonials.
Exactly. Okay. And the testimonials, like I said, you can do a keynote any way you want, but generally speaking, this is a nice flow and you have the testimonials at the end and it just sort of wraps it up with that little chocolate covered strawberry Zupas where you're just like, hey, I see that this actually works. So I like ending my keynote more with testimonials. And then I usually show my last slide. So say I'm teaching Purpose Changes Everything. And I flash that at the beginning. And then I've shared what purpose is and how you can find your purpose. And I give them the exercise to try doing their purpose statement. And then the second thing is what stops us from our purpose, what are the pain point, like the scare, we get scared, blah, 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 or we aren't clear about what that purpose is. And I give examples and stories of what happens to women that we work with. Once they get clear, then they're able to do some things, but also some tips on that. So I'll give them like a download or they'll talk to someone next to them and they'll work out what that is. And then by that time I'm saying, hey, we've got a mini life plan free download that you can use. So go ahead and do that. Or in the first section, I've said, hey, here's the purpose statement. Go ahead and use that, blah, blah, blah. And then after that, after they've talked and they've seen the need for it and they're starting to feel excited. And then I say, if you want to check this out, I have retreats and I have Leadership Circle and I'd love to help you with yours. And this is what we do. We help women write, speak, and blah, blah, blah. And then I share like a final example, Jen or Wendy or you or whatever. I just share an example of this is amazing to me, what we see women become and do, and not just get something accomplished, but in the process, become blah, blah, blah. And then again, I've showed Purpose Changes Everything and I've bookended and I've woven that repeater phrase throughout my keynote. So I would encourage you, look at that repeater phrase of what that would be. Healing, generational gardening brings healing. Generational gardening, there is healing in generational gardening, whatever. That's your catchphrase, your repeater phrase that you want to keep throughout. So then at the end, I show that slide one more time, Purpose Changes Everything. If you're ready to change everything with knowing your purpose, then I would love to work with you. And then show the slide of how they can connect with you, social media. And you want to chat a little bit so people can write down your social media stuff or take a picture or whatever.
I feel like I need to go through and rearrange it all again.
That's okay. That's okay.
I mean, my little repeating statement was every flower must grow through the dirt. We got to get through the dirt. We've got to get through the hard things to grow and stuff. So
I love that.
But I just feel like, originally when I think of generational gardening, I mean, it really does mimic the 3 areas of the garden, which is, learning, connecting, that one area, the healing, the other, and then finding the joy. And so I'm like, should those be my 3 statements? But I just specifically took one, the healing. But I guess I could have 3 different keynotes with one connecting, one, I don't know. I could go in different ways.
Absolutely. You could do one keynote that has all 3 of those, though, that's your signature keynote and the Costco sample of all those things, because that is what will help them find healing, is the healing garden, the connecting garden, or whatever. And that's a beautiful way to softly weave through, come to my garden, because then you're like, I know this works so much that I felt impressed and prompted to create a garden that has these 3 aspects in it so that people can want to be here, right? So then you can start sharing each of those points, and then I would suggest, I love that catchphrase, but I think it would be helpful to have it be more, go back to the title of your talk, something in the title of your talk. So I would say healing and generational gardening. And you can say there are 3 surprising ways that generational gardening is healing.
Okay.
And that's exactly what you're talking about. It's just in itself, getting in the garden is healing, and then it's connection, and then it's joy, the joy that it brings. Anytime you're involved in growth, it brings joy.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
You bet. Amanda, any questions for you?
I don't know. I don't think so right now, but I really don't know until because I don't have my speaking plan in front of me. So once I have it in front of me, maybe. I guess I guess what's been an aha for me is, like you had just mentioned to artists, that your signature keynote, she could put all 3, she could have 3 keynotes, but then your signature takes all 3 of those and is a Costco sample. And I was thinking your signature was going to be your best thing yet. Not that it was the thing that leads to the thing. So looking at that, and I'm thinking of these 5-day trainings that I want to do. So my signature keynote, I'm gonna have 5 points, right? Because I'm gonna talk on each one of those days training. Is that am I understanding that right?
If you need to, I mean, 3 points is really a good idea to max that, but where you're doing education, that makes sense to touch on the 5, but you could even include all 5 in the 3 categories that you do, right? So you could still do that.
Yeah, because instructional match and identification, they're going to go hand in hand. Bingo. So I could
you could combine. And again, there isn't any one right way to do a keynote. In essence, it's being able to say, I like having a keynote that has all 3 of those things of where I want to direct women to, so that I can give a Costco sample. But then it's also good to have a keynote that's this is the core, this is the thing I want to talk about. This is like finding healing and generational gardening. But there's no reason why you can't do both. That keynote for you, the finding healing, it is that taste tester of, these are the things I'm going to teach you. You're qualifying your audience all the time. You're not just giving a speech to give a speech. You are throwing out a net and saying, who wants more of what I'm offering? So the more you can qualify your audience with your keynote, the quicker and better you're going to have people join what you're doing and stay. They will be more consistent in their commitment to you, because you'll have already qualified them and made more of a match. That's by the time someone gets done with the discovery call with me, I know, are you interested in this or not? Because already the things that they've read and seen have brought them to this place where they know what they're getting. And then when I re-qualify and say, well, have you had a rumble? Are you all in with the Lord? Are you ready to learn a new skill? Do you want to be with like-minded women? Do you feel like you've got pieces, but you don't have traction? And once I've qualified them, then they're like, yes. Then I know we have a really good chance of making a match. So think about your keynote that way. Yes, it can be more just calling card and just saying, hey, putting a little Costco sample out there. Or depending on your audience, if you have an audience that's more, like Amanda, if they've asked you to come in and do leadership meeting or something like that, well, you don't need to worry about that. You're going to be more focused on specific topics to teach them, because it's not a finding keynote. Does that make sense? So it's knowing your audience, what they want and need, how can they best receive it, and what's the best way you can deliver it. And make it an engaging experience. Unforgettable. Make it unforgettable. That's Ty Bennett. That's how he gets called. He gets a callback. Anybody else watch Hoodwink? We always joke about callbacks, but he gets so many speaking gigs and nobody really knows what he does. He's super quiet about what he does. You only get to experience it when you're there. But whatever he does, people are like, I want that. So that's a good thing. You'll know that you have been successful with your keynote if people are coming up and it's called side stage referrals. They're coming up and saying, I want your card. I want to book you. I want to have you come and speak to my whatever. And that can be at a stake women's thing. That happens all the time. Please don't think, oh, it happens all the time. But I can get a very clear idea if this was what they needed and I did my job by the people that come up and say, I want you to come speak in my ward. And then I had to go, I only speak in stake settings or multi-wards, because otherwise what would happen is people come up and say, I want you to come speak in my ward. I want you to speak in my ward. And then I'm going out for my family and doing all these individual little wards. And I was like, don't have time for that. So then I got 2 years ago, I just said, I will only do stake or multi-ward. And that was the best thing I ever did. Because in a stake setting, if you have a ward, you're lucky if you get maybe 80, 90 women there, right? Maybe 100, because maybe they have 70 to 80 women in their Relief Society. Maybe they bring some friends and stuff, but that's if everybody comes, which does not happen. But if you have a stake or multi-ward, then you are pretty much guaranteed 150 to 200 women. And generally speaking, you'll do anywhere from 300 to 500. So it just depends on, what you're doing, what you're speaking about, and how big they've promoted it and blah, blah, blah. So that's something to consider as well. Just a little sideline thing there. Again, you'll know that it landed, is what they say, but you'll know that you resonated with the women if people they don't just come up and say, wow, that was so good, but they're like, oh my gosh, my sister needs to hear this, and my blah, blah, and I want to tell my Relief Society president about this, or whatever setting that you're in. Any other questions?
How have you done 6 meetings today?
Protein shakes and protein bars. That you're so cute. Because this is what I love. I love, love, love. And I told my son to ride the bus home today because I'm like, I'm going to go lay down until he gets home. So I can do phase 2. Thank you for asking. But honest to Pete, you guys, when you're doing this keynote, exactly, do what brings you joy. Share the stories and the points and do it in a way that you're like, oh, this is going to be so fun. And Wendy Jones, when you're watching, I could feel your excitement on your post of, oh my goodness, it's coming. And that picture of you speaking, it was like, I can just feel your joy and excitement of it. So think about, and that was one more point I wanted to make. Think about your upcoming next keynote, whatever you think that might be. So I got asked to speak at Life After Divorce in February. So that's the one I'm focused on right now. So yes, you want to create your signature keynote, but if you have one coming up, then focus on that one so that you've got a ready-made beta test that you can practice with it, right? So that's what I would encourage you to do, because then we can help you learn some things in real time and you'll apply it right away. You guys are awesome. Have fun with this. Have fun with it. Have fun writing down the ideas and, oh, this could be fun. And, oh, they would love that. And have it be fun so that you feel excited about it. If you do, then they will too.
Thank you, Connie. That's awesome.
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for making the time to be here today. You're just amazing, Amanda. I'm thinking you're going to start putting a bed in the back of your car and probably just like some drapes on the side. You're just amazing. What you get done in a car is incredible. I mean, you really do need to do a keynote or a talk on that, or a post for sure, a video. Like, you don't have time, let me show you how we make this happen. Honestly, a little reel, that would be so funny because it's beautiful what you get done. You're amazing artist. How are you feeling?
A little bit better. Still kind of struggling with sleep and stuff. So
I have the same question to you. How is it that you're recovering and you look so good? Every single time I see you. Our family, when we look sick, we look sick. Nobody has to ask. They know. So you look amazing.
I think that's the tricky part is my kids think I look fine on the outside. Everybody thinks I look fine, but on the inside, I'm still trying my best. But yes, go get your hair greasy and like, don't put on coordinating things and maybe that will help. Yeah, that's what my nutritionist said to me this morning when I had a meeting with her. She's like, stop looking good because they're going to think you're normal.
Expectations go like this. Oh, she's back. Yeah. Pajamas, nothing but jam.
Yeah.
Love you ladies so much.
Okay, love you. Thank you, Connie. Good to see you, Amanda.
Marco Polo or text me with any questions, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Love you. Bye.